Go ahead.
Thanks, Robin, for introducing me. As my name is Faisal Farid, I'm a Dynamic 365 Finance and Operation Technical Lead at DXC Technology. If anyone wants to reach to me, here is my email address, LinkedIn, and Twitter profile. And I do write blog. You can reach out to me through my blog even. Okay, so in today's talk, there are 3 focus points which we need to remember: why, how, and what. Why do we need dual write? How we are going to use dual write? And what is dual write? By the end of today's session, you will be able to have understanding about all these questions. So start with why do we dual write? What is dual write? Then I'll explain about what is the architecture behind dual write. Then we have a demo. What's the infrastructure involved for dual write? And then the deployment, where I will talk about little bit how we can move all the changes from a dev environment to the test UAT up to the production environments. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask at the end of the session. I will go with the pitch here. This screen should be very much familiar to most of the guys here. This is from a data integrator. As you can see, this is a manual process and it is also a scheduled based process. The reason I put this at the start, I just wanted to show there is another feature available, Data Integrator, and while we will talk about during this session here, we will come to know why do we need dual write if we already got a data integrator in place. So the first question came into my mind, and it may came into another few of your minds here. Why do we need dual write? First, we need to understand why Microsoft built dual write and what problems Microsoft tried to solve with yet another feature, which is called dual write, where we already got a data integrator. So think of Dynamic 365 Finance and Operations and CDS environments. So what I'm showing you here, the UI, which is pulling some information from customer side, which is written to the F&O database. And similarly, onto the CDS side, I have the Power Apps basically connected to the CDS, and probably it's reading some customer information as well. The important point here, the information into the F&O UI is definitely different than the information what is showing into Power Apps into CDS. These are 2 different customers. In F&O, these are 2 different customers into CDS. So I would say accounts in CDS language, because these 2 are completely separate databases and talking to different instances. I could say like this would be fine. There is nothing wrong with it. 2 instances, 2 databases living separately, having their own life. Now, to add to it, F1 Finance and Operation has gotten a very powerful feature here, which is called Embedded Power Apps, which is again talking to CDS, as you can see here. So now we have Embedded Power Apps talking to CDS. We have Power Apps talking to CDS here. So again, it is not necessarily pulling information from FNO. What I'm trying to show here, how embedded Power Apps and Power Apps are bound to CDS here. And in this case, they both share the information. In FNO UI, you have customer information, which is not this customer information, which is not exist any of the CDS databases here. If we talk about this Fabricam, Litware, these two accounts sits into CDS, whereas this Alpine Sky and Contoso UK, these two records live into FNO database. So if you set up a data integrator, you could definitely achieve this requirement, having these information sync across to these two customers, sync across to CDS through Data Integrator. But that requires a lot of configuration setups. You have to create projects, templates, and this will be a manual process and a schedule based, as we saw into the first slide. This will not be a real-time integrator. So the question arises, and also FNO database does not live natively into CDS. If you want to have FNO data into CDS, you have to do something, which would be one point would be you have to set up a data integrator. That is a one option. How do we get data back into from FNO to CDS and from CDS to FNO? This is the real magic of dual write. And this is where the dual write comes into the picture, where if we create a data, if we write any record in FNO, it available on CDS and vice versa. Anytime you write something into CDS, it write back to the FNO database too. At the very high level, this is what dual write is, without asking you to set up any projects, any templates. It's just a matter of few clicks and you will have your dual write enabled. So once the dual write is on, that is what happens. As expected, the information from CDS customer entity or an account entity would be in FNO database. And vice versa. Similarly, the Power Apps which is over here, which is embedded into FNO, and the one which is bound to Power Apps here, which is bound to CDS, now share all the information here. That's what happens when you enable the dual write. And at the very high level, this is all about dual write. You can write, you will have all the information up to date, sync into your embedded Power Apps within FNO now, if you have enabled the dual write. Now, moving to what is dual write. Again, when FO data is written, it will be written to CDS as well. And same goes for Dynamic 365 for sales and vice versa. This is a real-time integration. This is bi-directional. This can be one direction, which I'll show you in a bit as part of the demonstration. It's available for master data, it's available for business documents, and it's available for reference data, as you can see into this picture. Now, if we talk about the dual write architecture, if you look at the current picture, on the top, there is CDS and FO. Both have their own entities in it. When the data is written in CDS, we want to push this into FNO. The first thing is there a mapping available, or is this hard-coded transformation from FNO to CDS or from CDS to FNO? So dual write does support mappings. This is similar mappings what we have into Data Integrator. So what happens when data changes happened on an entity in CDS? So CDS have their own plugins. So these plugins are new, not new for especially for dual write. These plugins already exist into CDS side, into Dynamic 365 for sales. But as part of the dual write implementation, what Microsoft team has done, whenever any CRUD operation happens, a plugin get fired. The part of the plugin, what has been done is it writes data back into FNO using mappings. And it uses the OData to write data back into FNO. That is the one side of the dual write architecture from CDS to FNO. And this transformation happens record by record, which is slightly different from the Data Integrator, where it used to be a batch integration. Now, if you look at the other picture in FNO to CDS, we also have the entities in both the systems. This is bi-direction. You can modify mappings in any of the environments. Now in FNO to CDS side, it is very similar, as you can see. What is the change here? These events. So some events have been added into FNO framework. These are not the standard events. These are the table level events, which have been captured and bubbled them up at the entity level. Think about the cus table. If you are an FNO developer or FNO consultant, you know the cus table. It's a table for customers. So think about if something gets changed into the customer table, any customer's information gets changed or address got changed, an event trigger into the cus table. And eventually using these CRUD operations and the new events as part of the dual write, we captured all those events at the customer's entity level, which actually tells us what data has been changed on what field. Again, it uses the mappings and then using the OData to flow information from FNO to CDS. So as a recap, it's more of a trigger-based, plugin-based, or event-based, where the data is changed as soon as the data gets changed, it push on the other side. That's the overall architecture behind the dual write. Dual write does require a minimum system requirements. Here are these two requirements available from FNO side. It has to be on PU33, which is platform update 33, with an application version 10.1009. From Dynamics 365, it has to be model-driven applications platform version as it's written here. Okay, so now let's quickly jump into the demo first. So the first thing about dual write is the dual write UI lives within the finance and operations now. It has given a more flexibility. You can play around, you can configure dual write with few clicks. So in order to access dual write, if you log into the data management module in finance and operations, you will see dual write tile over here. And once it pops up, it will list down all the available entity maps here. This is a standard system, and the question comes where these entity map came from. So these are a part of dual write code solution, which you have to install as part of the dual write configuration. I have shared all the links at the end of this presentation. Feel free to access those links. These are very much detailed links. It will guide you how to install all the solutions. And once you install and configure the dual write and you apply the solution from this button, it will list on all the available entity maps. At the very beginning, this is the UI of the dual write, which lives within Dynamics Finance and Operations. Now I'll go first with the few concepts about this dual write, how these mappings exist here. At the very beginning, when you will see the dual write enabled, all the mappings are into the state of not running. There are different statuses, as you can see, not running, running, and mappings created but not running. With an initial process, everything will be in not running state. If you want to run a particular entity map, you just search for this one. I stopped this vendor V2 data entity map, and I wanted to show you something, how you can enable a particular entity map here. This is the reason it's showing me mappings created and not running. If you click this one and you go to run, it asks you what is the master of the initial sync, and what does it mean initial sync, and what is this entity map status. So first thing, what is initial sync? Initial syncs, if you want to have all the data copy across from one environment to another environment, from FNO to CDS or from CDS to FNO, it will run the initial sync and will copy across all data from source to target. When I say source to target, source would be master and target would be the other option. If we have selected, I want to go with the initial sync and I want to choose my master for initial sync is FN Finance and Operations app, means like I'm planning to copy all the vendors from finance and operation to CDS, and I want to do the initial sync. If you untick this one, it will run only that set of data, whatever you will modify as part of the creation or update or delete. Another thing which I wanted to show you here is about show related entity maps. This is really a good feature which actually tells you if you really want to run the vendor v2 entity map, which is the first entity map which I wanted to run, vendors v2, and if you show me all the related data entities for this one, it tells you the list of data entities which as a recommendation you have to run first before you face any issues down the line. As you know, if you create a vendor, for that particular vendor, you have to have a vendor groups. You have to have some terms of payments. You must have currencies and so forth. So this data must exist in both systems before you before you sync data for vendors itself. So I have, as you can see, I have already run all the prerequisites entity maps for vendors v2. Everything is running here. I'll untick this one. I'll say I don't want to do initial sync, and I will change my master from it. If I don't want to initial sync, it doesn't matter what option you select. If you want to select any option, and if you after that you untick this one, this option will not come into the picture. This option will not trigger. This option is only for the initial sync. As you can see, master for initial syncs. I click this one. I will say I want to run. It will start running here. It will change the status here, and it in a bit it will change to running state. While it's running, I have opened a new session here. Again, I'm going to the dual write style, where it will again show me all the lists here. While it's this popping up, I'll quickly go back to my previous screen, and as you can see, this is running now. Now, if you click onto this entity map, it will show you all the fields which are mapped between both the environments. And this is the main part where I showed you the mappings part into architecture there. This is the main part where you have, this is the mostly time consuming part, is like you have to map the fields properly. And luckily, Microsoft has provided us the templates for all the entities here, where we can have all the mappings available. So if you click onto this now start with this. This is the source field here, finance and operations vendors v2. You can define some filters here, whatever the filters you will define here, which means like you want to send data of this particular type across to CDS. And if you define any filters here, which means like you will transfer data from CDS to FNO using these filters. These are the list of all the finance and operation on your left hand side. These are all the fields available from CDS side. Now, if we have a different type of maps available here, first is bidirectional, and we also have bidirectional with some value maps. First, I will go back to the actual customer screen, and I will try to create a customer, which I'll show you how it looks like into CDS. So this is my finance and operation. I'm in USMF legal entity, which is a demo data. and I would say do a right demo and do a right demo. I'm just choosing a customer group. I'm choosing any city for now. I'm choosing any address. Do a right address. I'm choosing any phone number. I'm putting my email here. Before I click save, I just wanted to show you as a proof this account should not exist already into CDS, which is Dynamic 365 for here. So this do not exist. If even I go back to my all accounts here, this doesn't exist here. Now, if I'll go back to the finance and operation, I have entered all my required information, whatever was required, and I said save. Now, if you think about the architecture, it is trigger all the events, and if I'll just refresh this one, this record comes into my CDS environment. If I click onto this one, all the data is here. Now, if I change my customer group from here to 100 and I'll save it, I go back here, I hit refresh, and this customer group comes in here. You may have noticed the addresses which I entered, these didn't come through. The reason is for the entities we are just sending data of invoice type here. So if I'll select OK, I change the purpose from business to invoice. I hit save here. I hit refresh. And this address come through. Now, if we create a new account from here, I'll choose a company here. Do a right CE. CE. I'm creating a customer here. I want to have a customer group 20 here. Before I hit this one, I'll go back. I will see this customer should not exist. And it doesn't into FNO. I hit save. I hit refresh into FNO and this comes here with all the required information which I've entered there. Now coming back to what we discussed into customers, I will go back to the dual right main screen and then I'll show you how the customer's data entity is mapped between both the environments. The customer's account. If I'll click onto this one, so these are the fields from FNO side, as I showed you at invoice address city. So these are the fields which are mapped between FNO to CE. So only address of type of purpose invoice and delivery will move across FNO to CE. But this is not the limitations. You can always add new entity maps here, which I'll show you in a bit. So first, this is a source field account. This is the destination field in FNO, in CDS, sorry. Then we have a map type here. As I said initially, this is the bidirectional sync, but this can be a one direction. By defining this sync direction, I would say I want to keep this one finance and operations, and I hit save. You see that the icon change, which means data is flowing from FNO to CE here. In vice versa, if I want to have this information, particular information only from CDS to FNO, I hit save. It comes from CDS to FNO. If I would say I want to keep this one bidirectional as it was before, it will be like this. So these are the different types of map types here. Then for each map type, you can actually define your data transformations as we have here. This is bidirectional. We can define a value map here. We can set a default value. We can truncate a value here. So start with value map. We know credit limit mandatory is a yes no field in finance and operations, which means it saves data with no and yes. Whereas in CDS, we have a different data type for this one, which saves data as false and true. Finance and operation do not understand about false and true, and CDS doesn't understand about no and yes. To tell the system, we have to do a data transformation, which means like we will define a value map here. We will say no means false, yes means true. You can even play around with the JSON if you want to. It's very easy to copy these values across environments, across the different fields using the JSON format. I always prefer to use this format, but it's really up to you. Whatever the format you want to follow, you can play around with. You can say, okay, I want to add a new value here, and whatever the value you will have, I would say none and it has not available as a value map into CDS. It will show me as when I hit save, it will start appearing into my JSON format here. You can delete the maps here. You can cancel on it. This bolt icon with a one direction on it, it tells me there is a default value, and with this default value is coming from CDS, because this is a one direction and we can always set up our default values here. What does it mean here? In CDS, we don't have data for all the fields available, which is required for the customers. One of the field is a language. So whenever the customer gets created, it always gets the default value here. Again, we have a default value going from FNO to CDS in this format. We can say I can set up a default value from FNO to CDS, and the default value for this particular field, which is the address type code, would be 2. That is about the entity mappings. Again, you can always add your custom fields. If you have customized customers V3 data entity and you have added custom fields into that one, all you just need to do, once you added all your fields into your data entity, As a part of the standard process, you will refresh your entities under your data management module so that all fields start appearing into your data management module. Then you have to refresh entities here so that those data entities, those changes which have been made to the data entity into the data management module start appearing under here into the doer right. Again, this is just the if I will right click, you will not be able to see the form name here as most of the finance and operations consultants and developer do. They try to find out the form name behind this screen. This is just the iframe of the Power Apps which lives within the finance and operations. Everything, whatever you are doing, everything, all the mappings, it's eventually happening into Power Apps, Power Platform itself. You can define the filters here. When you define the filter here, which means whenever you're creating a customer here, if the customer is not of type organization, which you can choose here when you create a new customer, you can change the organization to person. If you have created a customer of type person, this will not flow from finance and operation to CDS based onto this filter, because we have put this filter only those customer will flow from FNO to CDS of type organization. Similarly, we have some filters from CDS to FNO if we have created an account from CDS, and if we do not define this customer type code V3 equals to 3, then and if we have created an account with customer type code equals to 2, this account will not get generated into FNO. You can stop the mappings, you can pause it. So let's say if you have some maintenance into the system, you can always go back to the entities and you can pause the entities for certain time. So I'm just taking back to the dual right entity list where we have a complete list of entity mappings here. You can select all, you can delete it, but if you want to delete the entity mappings, all the entity maps has to be into not running state. So what we have to do, we have to select all the runnings one. Even you can do a search here, you can filter, show me all the runnings ones only. You can select all and you can stop it, and it will stop altogether. As you can see, only these are running, which I just executed as part of this demonstration. If we want to go vendors V2, you can select, you can say, I want to stop this one. And in a second, it will start stopping here. While it's stopping, I'll quickly show you some other options here. So onto this screen, as you can see, the vendor V2 is gone because we have filter based onto the only running, and it is this vendors V2. This is stopped now. If we take this one off and then we say, I want to see what are the environments linked between both the systems. This is the connection detail, and this comes when you initially set up the environments. Again, this will be a part of the complete documentation which I have put all the links at the end of the presentation. So this is my finance and operation environment, and this is my CDS environment. These are the legal entities which I have chosen to sync between both the environments. Excuse me. And then we have these integration keys here. So this is a very important concept and important thing to keep eye on to the integration keys, especially. These are the integration keys coming from the CDS, from Dynamics 365 sales environment. So these are the primary index of each data entity lives within CDS. So if we talk about the account, we have the primary index on account number and the company code. It's company. So wherever we have this company code as a part of the integration key, means this is a company specific data entity. Whereas if you see the company here, if you only have the company code as a part of the index or the primary key or the integration key, and we do not have a company, means this is a global data entity here. You will see few here about language, internal organizations, and there will be a few more into the list, which are global data entities. And wherever you see the company field here, this is a company specific, means this particular contact. If we talk about this contact will be very specific for each legal entity in FNO. Legal entity means a company in FNO, which is USMF, USSI, DET, and so on. If I'll take back to the dual right screen here, you can always add a new entity map here. So when you want to create an entity map here, it will show you the list of entities available in both the environments. So this is first thing is it says this list is actually from FNO. As you can see, this is the finance and operation environment, and then this is the list of all the entities available for dual write. Only those lists will appear here which are appeared into the data management module. For the CDS, we have entities available here from CDS environment. Then we specify the publisher here. We can specify the version here. And the concept of version is here. It comes into the play when we deploy different solutions. So I'll show you at part of the presentation at the end how the solution works here. So once you select your entities here, your entity from FNO, your entity from CDS, you provide your default publisher here. You said, okay, I want to use this particular version here. You can specify any versions if you want, and you hit save. It will create a new entity map here. Similarly, what we have here for the all products, I will choose a small one because the products one is a big one. It takes a bit time to open that entity map. So let's assume we have created a new entity map called colors. So first time it will try to load all the entity mappings from both the environments, and it takes a few seconds, a little bit more time as it normally takes when you have already opened. So it is the only one field here, and you can see the map type is a one directional, which means it is from FNO to CDS here. There are no filters. There are no filters from both sides. And if you want to run this one, I don't want to do the initial sync for this particular example. I would say, or let's do the initial sync. I want to do the initial sync from FNO to CDS because I want to show you how the initial syncs work. I will run it. Now I can see the initial sync details here. If I'll go back to the entity maps, colors, so you can see it's in running state, it's processing state, sorry, and this is the initial sync details. So if you have executed the initial sync, you can see the initial sync details here. 58 records upserts. So upserts, it's the same terminology which we use into DI, Data Integrator. It's update or inserts both together. So you can look into the project. So in finance and operation, it has created a project with this name under data management module. And you can see here, it's a one directional, but it provides you a complete view how many records get created from AX, which is a finance and operation, to CRM, which is the CDS now, or Dynamic 365 sales. So you can even see if you have found any errors, if it lists out any errors here, you can click on to this particular link here. It will list down the list of all the errors with more information. Similarly, if I'll again take an example of colors here, you can add new mappings. Since we only got only one field here, so that would be a wrong example here. I'll just take you to another, let's say customer groups. It's running. It has this entity maps here. I want to add a new field here. This might be a custom field based on to your requirements. Let's say I want to add a text group ID here, and I want to map this one with this group ID here. I want to say I just want to have this one from effort to CE, and that's it. I will hit save. It saves my mappings. And as you have noticed, I did everything while it was running. So I can add mappings while it is into the running state. I do not need to stop it and then run it, because runnings mean whenever you create a record in FNO for customer group, then it will come into the picture. So definitely, if you are a system administrator and you need to add a new field, you will stop your user to add new customer group for that particular time until you finish your mappings first. You hit save, it's saved automatically, and you go back. And if you want to verify, I'll just go to running state, runnings one, and this is sorry, this is the new feature I just noticed now. So I'm just also notice a new feature which is great. So if you want to make a changes and if you want to affect those changes, you have to stop this one and then you have to add the entity map. I was doing something different previously where I was just adding things directly to the entities and I didn't need to stop this one, but looks like that's with a new update, they may have changed something. Text group ID. group ID. I want to make it from FNO to C and hit save. So that is, once it gets saved, it tries to save this into a separate solution. As you remember, I told you this, that the entity map, which the list of all the entity maps there, it shows as part of the Microsoft dual write core solution. Now you are making changes into that solution. So Microsoft do not allow you to make changes into the dual write core solution for sure. And now it's asking you where you want to see keep these changes. I would say I want to save this into my default publisher. This is a default publisher come into the picture when we uh, jump into the Power Apps screen. So I want to save this one as an, so I can say edit text group ID and hit save. So this entities are read only. Never mind. In CDS, this entities are read only. So we can, definitely we can add custom fields into the data entities, and if needed, if we want to make the data entities non-read only, we can always change entities into both the environments. We can make those changes and then we can add fields, and it will start appearing with the new entity maps here. And other few stuff which I just wanted to quickly show you. Once you have your what we did colors one, you can have a look onto your activity log. So this is what happened when I try to do something into the activity log. It gives you a bit of a log there, what has happened and at what time here. It also provides you a detail of the initial sync, what happened with the initial sync. If there was any errors with the initial sync, it lists down here all the error messages, and with the details, it actually tells you what are the details for this particular data entity. So it tells you what data entity from FNO side is eCore as product colors entity, that is the name of the data entity, and from CDS side this is the data entity. This will be very much helpful when you want to find out what data entity is in FNO for this particular colors. So you can easily get it from this bit. Coming back to the main screen of dual write, as a recap, I have shown you the UI of the dual write lives within the FNO. It is a list of all the data entities here. These entities which we are seeing here, these came as a part of the dual write core solution which I installed as part of the dual write setup. Then we have seen we can add a new entity map here where we can add entities from both the environments, standard entities, or even you can add your custom entities. You can define your mappings there. Mappings you can define within a mappings, you can define one directional, bi-directional. You can define value maps. You can say I want to have a default value for this particular sync. We have seen the environment details where we saw which environment is linked between from both sides, and we have seen the integration key. This is the same integration key button which opens from the environment details. Then we have another option here, alert settings. So alert settings, it's a pretty handy format. If you want to uh, put some alerts here, I want to see, okay, if particular job gets giving me an error 5 times or 10 times within a day, I want to get this one. I want tool to stop this job for me. So that I will come when I will come back tomorrow or on the next day. So I will have a look into all the error messages before I when first I will fix those error messages, then I will do the rest of the things. So I want to be notified through alert settings here. So you can define your all custom alerts from here. And another thing is unlink environments. Once you have done the environment linkings, so this button comes up, you can unlink environment. And one of the requirement to unlink an environment is if I will click this one, I would say yes, it will say all the entity maps must be into not running state. So all the entities in the environment must be disabled before the environment is deleted. So disabled means these has to be not in running state. So what I have to do, I have to go back to all running states. I have to do this and I have to stop all the running states. Then I will be able to delete or unlink the environment. Once you unlink the environment, so next time when you log into this screen, you will see a button here, link environment, and it will give you a pop-up window onto your right hand side where you can define your environments, what environment you want to choose from FNO, what environment you want to choose from CDS side. And you have to be the environment administrator from both sides in order to configure the link, in order to link the environments. And another important point is, if I have used a particular user, which in this case I have used my service account to link the environments, so then I will be the one who will be able to add the entity maps. So this is the permission, this is the thing which Microsoft wanted to control, like whoever links the environment should only be able to the new entity maps. So if I'm not logged in with this user which I have used to link the environment, and I would try to add entity map here, it will give you an error message onto the top. It says you are not the system administrator. So the system administrator, only whoever links the environment initially will be able or should be able to add the new entity maps here. So we talked about all these options, and then this is a health check here. It's a good option to have here, and this comes pretty handy when you install uh, after you install all the solutions from CDS side through Power Platform. And then once you start linking the environments, it actually checks all the health checks. And if it failed at some certain steps, it tells you this is failed, so that you have to go back and fix all the options, all the checks first. Then it will allow you to link the environments. So coming back to the deck here, this is one of the dependencies, graph and sequencing. Uh, as I have told you, shown you the initial sync or initial write concept. If we create a customer in finance and operation, it flows from FNO to CDS and from CDS to FNO. If we just want to do a copying pre-existing data, which is the initial sync or initial write. This is the concept of related entities. As I have shown you, when we wanted to start a customer data entity or a vendor data entity, it actually gives you an option onto the top. Do you want to run all the dependent data entities or not? It will, because this is the relational database. and it actually tells you all the relations between the data entities and the tables, and it lists down based on to those relations what are the entities would be recommended for you to start along with the entity which you are planning to start here. So that is a thing when you want to move your dual write mappings from your one environment to another environment. So dual write is now a solution aware, which basically enables you ALM, application lifecycle management ability, such as transportation and backup, restore of dual write entity maps across environments. So what happens here? So you have added, you customize an entity map here. You export that entity map as a solution in our Power Platform. Then you export that solution. You can take it as a backup. You can publish that solution into your app source, and onto the other side, you can import that solution into your UAT or production environment. So everything, whatever you are doing, as I said, this is the iframe. This UI only lives within FNO. Everything, all the fields, customizations, or everything you can export as a solution through Power Platform. This is the picture of the Power Apps here. If you go to the admin.powerapps.com, onto your left, you have to select your correct environment here, which you have linked between FNO and CDS. This is a CDS environment here. You go to your left hand side, you go to your solutions here, and this is the solution which already installed here. So you click into, you select a one solution here, get onto three dots. It will give you an option to export it. You can export it. Onto the other side, you click import. It will give you an option to browse the solution. You browse that option solution, and then it will import into your other environments. As I've been saying a few times, these are the worthwhile links which actually list down what happens when the dual write generally available. Dual write came into general available on 27th of March, less than a month ago, and there are big announcements. You can go through all those links from here. You can go by dual write step by step, how to configure dual write. You have to install a couple of app source packages here, dual write core and dual write app. So if you have already installed the dual write core package, you don't need to install this one separately. You only need to install the dual write core. Anything, if you have any ideas about this product, this is still with Microsoft, and if you have any new ideas where you want to work in a different way for this product, please feel free to send a feedback to Microsoft in this email. And that's all from my side. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'm open for the questions now.
Okay, thanks very much, Faisal. And just one question has been asked in the question box, and that is, how can you add a contact within the F&O account and have that F&O contact link into the CDS, that is the sales CRM account?
Okay, so the question is how you can add a contact into CDS and then having that contact back into FNO.
Oh no,
so,
actually it was the other way. Contact in FNO and link into CDS.
Okay, so for that one, if we go back to the entity mappings here, So we have available entity maps here, CDS contexts and CDS contexts V2 here. So if you have enabled the dual write, if you are running this entity map, so whatever the context you will create in FNO, it will copy across to CDS. And if you make changes, anything for these particular fields which are mapped between both the environments, if you make changes into these fields, the same information will flow from CDS to FNO. So I hope that answered your question.
Okay, we have another question just came in. Are there any performance benchmarks for dual write available?
Not I'm aware of. I haven't seen anything from Microsoft side where we are saying like it will not work with that set of data, because I myself has tried it with a huge volume of data and it's working fine as of now.
Okay. And I'm not seeing any other questions being asked in the question box.
So that means I have already answered all the questions.
I think so. Okay. Yes, I think that is all the questions. So just wrap up by saying thank you very much, Faisal. Thanks everyone for attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you everyone who attended this seminar. Thank you.